Hello everybody, welcome back to Maqam Lessons. My name is Sami Abu-Shamez. Before we continue, I want to give a big thanks to all of my Patreon supporters. You guys are totally amazing, and you're helping me to continue making these free videos for everybody. For those of you out there, if you're not supporting yet, but you are able to make a small monthly contribution, the link to my Patreon page is in the description below, and I'd really appreciate it if you're able to support. To everybody else, please hit like and subscribe, share these videos. I really appreciate all the subscribers and people who are watching as well, so thank you very much. Today we're doing Maqam Suznak. Suznak is a maqam in the Rast family, and it is one of the most popular and common maqamat, especially in Egypt. The song Ghanili Shwaya, Ghanili Shwaya, Shwaya is in Suznak. It goes up Shwaya, 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 Ghanili, Ghanili. So Suznak has Hijaz on top and Rast on the bottom. Now, if you don't know what I mean when I say Jins Rast or Jins Hijaz, then you're not watching the right video first. So please make sure that you go back and you watch the videos for Jins Rast, for Jins Hijaz, for Jins Nahawand, for Jins Bayati, and for Jins Upper Rast. So we're actually covering 5 different ajnas in this video. And Maqam Suznak uses all of these ajnas in a different way. But the most important is the relationship between Hijaz and Rast. Rast on this tonic, and this is Jins Rast, and I happen to be on A, with Hijaz on this tonic, the 5th scale degree. Hijaz and Rast. We'll get into the other ones as we go along. So let's start. Repeat after me. We're going to sing simple melodies that illustrate the sayr, the direction of the maqam. And then after we sing for a little bit, I will break it down for you in terms of the ajnas. And really sing very simply. Repeat after me. If there's any details you don't get, don't worry about it. Focus on the big picture of the direction of the melody, because that's what's going to teach you the most. So you repeat on my second repeat of each phrase. Ya Lili, ya Lili, ya Lili. Ya Lili, ya Lili, ya Lili. Ya Lili, 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 ya Aini, ya Lili, ya Aini, ya Lili, ya Lili, ya Lili, ya Lili, ya Lili, ya Lili, ya Lil, ya Lil, ya Lil, ya Lini, ya Lil, ya Lili, ya Lil, ya Great. So now I'm going to break it down for you a little bit and explain each jins within the maqam. I didn't do absolutely everything in this particular, this is sort of like an opening statement, like an opening paragraph. In any improvisation, whether it's a vocal improvisation, a mawal, or a taqsim, an instrumental improvisation, you're going to start with a little bit of the maqam and gradually build towards more of the maqam. So that's what we're doing in the course of the lesson, and what I do in all the lessons. We start with a little bit and we build up, but it's very similar to how you would work with improvising. So, first we start with jins rast. Ya lil, ya lil, ya lil, ya lil. And do you notice which note I'm emphasizing? If this is our tonic, can you sing the other note that I'm emphasizing a lot in these melodies? It's this note, right? And the relationship to the tonic? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that note, the 5th scale degree, is what we call the ghammaz. And the ghammaz for jins rast is a 5th scale degree, and the ghammaz for the maqamat in the Rast family is that same 5th scale degree. So in this Maqam Suznak, this is going to be our pivot point. Yalini yanin, yalini yanin. And that is jins hijaz on 5. Jins hijaz on the ghammaz. Yaini, yaini, yalini yalin, yalini yalin, yalini, yalini, yalin, yalin. Now, I made a modulation here. I moved away from the hijaz, and I started bayati on 5. So this is bayati on 5. 5, 6, 7, 8. And if I play hijaz in the same spot, it's 5, 6, 7, 8 for hijaz. Let's do a little bit just to clarify for ourselves. Let's just do a little bit of a scalar exercise here. I know we're interrupting the flow of the melody, but just to really clarify bayati and hijaz. 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 6, 7, 8, 7, 8, 9, 8, That's hijaz on 5. Bayati. 5, 6, 5, 6, 5. You notice how the 6 here is just a little bit higher than the 6 was in hijaz. 6 7 6 7 6 6 7 6 7 6. Now the 7 is much lower than it was in Hijaz. E 7 8 7 8 7 7 8 7 8 7 8 9 8 9 8 8 9 8 9 8 8 7 6 5. That's Bayati. 8 7 6 5 versus Hijaz. 8 7 6 5 8 7 6 5. So I spent a little time here because this movement between Bayati and Hijaz on the same tonic on the 5th scale degree of Rast is one of the key elements of Maqam Suznak. Now I'm going to show you a little graph here. And you can see here, Rast on 1, Hijaz on 5, and Bayati on 5. Let's ignore the other parts of the graph so far, right? That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with this motion between Hijaz and Bayati, and that is a major component of Maqam Suznak. So let me get back to where we were. Let's quickly go up from Rast. Ya leel, ya leel, ya leel, ya leel, ya leel, ya leel, ya leel. And that melody hints at Hijaz. 5 6. That's the 6 that is part of Hijaz. Ya leel, ya leel. Really, we're in Hijaz now. Ya leel, ya leel, ya leel, ya leel, ya leel. Now, I just entered Bayati with that phrase. Ya leel. And some of you might be thinking, well, I didn't hear all of Bayati. You don't need to hear all of Bayati. All you heard was this change from 8 7 6 5 8 7 6, and then you hear 8 7, and that lowered 7 tells you that we're in Bayati. Now, it may not tell you if you've never heard this before, but it tells any experienced musician in the tradition and any experienced listener in the tradition that we've entered Bayati. And the reason that that one note tells you that is that we expect Bayati. We expect Hijaz and we expect Bayati in this position in Rast. So it's the listening to many songs that do the same thing that builds that expectation so that when we actually hear the one note, we know we're getting what we're expecting. So listen for that again. And the more you're familiar, the more this will stand out to you. But you should start to get it even from this lesson. So I'm going to go from Hijaz to Bayati. Ya leel, ya leel, ya leel, ya leel, ya leel, ya leel. That was the modulation to Bayati, and I'll continue. Ya leel, 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 ya leel. And that last phrase was a modulation back to Hijaz. Ya lil, ya lil, ya lil, ya lil. Going back down to the Rast tonic. So there what we did, we went up from Rast, followed this little line here to Hijaz 5, we went back and forth, and we came back to Rast. Now I'm going to explore more of the graph. But again, this Hijaz is going to be important everywhere. And Hijaz, you can see, can connect to other parts of the graph. Okay? So I'm going to do a little bit of comparison with Maqam Kiridan. So Kiridan we did was the last Maqam that I covered. And I showed you this graph for Kiridan. Okay? We see many of the same things. Rast, Nahawand, Upper Rast, and Hijaz. Here is Suznak. You notice that these things are some of the same things except for the Bayati, but just in a different place. The Nahawand and the Upper Rast are down here in the graph, and they're up there at the top of the graph for Kiridan. Why? Because those are the central parts of the melody of Kiridan, but they still occur in Suznak. So let's hear what that sounds like. We're going to go up in Hijaz and then come down with the Kiridan part. Yalin, 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 yalin. Yalin, 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 yalin. That is Jint's upper Rast, leading up to the tonic. 8, 7, 6, 7, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can hear how that leads up to that octave tonic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yalini, yalin, yalini, yalin. Back to Hijaz on 5. You see how we can go very quickly. Yalini, 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 yalini. Yalil, yalil, yalil. And that last phrase used Nahawand and back down to Rast. 8, 7, 6, 5 is Nahawand on 5. 4, 3, 2, 1, Rast on the root tonic. Let me actually do it without the violin and show you with my finger a little bit here. I'll repeat exactly what we just did. You guys repeat after me. Yalin, 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 yalin. Yalin, 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 yalin. Back from upper Rast to Hijaz. And then yalini, yalini, yalil. So I used a little bit of these ajnas that are part of Kiridan, but I connected them with the Hijaz. I made the Hijaz very important because that's really the important part of Maqam Suznak. So now we're going to take a little further. So far we've explored, and I'm keeping that brief because in Maqam Suznak, even though we use this part of the Sayr, we use this upper Rast and Nahawand, it's not a big part of the Sayr. We get to it as a way of emphasizing the octave like we just did. But then we back away from it, and most of the action is in this Hijaz and Bayati. But I'm going to take you to another part of the graph. So we did all of this so far in the lesson. You can go back and look at it. I'm going to take you here. This is a very interesting place. Let's hear it first. Hijaz on 5. Ya ning ning ya ning. Ya ning ning ya ning. Ya ning. Ya ning. Ya ning ning. Ya ning. Ya ning. Ya ning. Ya ning. Ya ning, ya ning, ya ning, ya ning. Now this is the octave. This is 8, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's also the 4th scale degree of Hijaz. Ya ning, ya ning, ya ning, ya ning, ya ning, ya. That is the Nahawand on 8. This is the 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nahawand on A in this case. Now, you may think it's weird to have Nahawand on the octave of Rast. So the 3rd scale degree up here, 1, 2, 3, is different than down here. 1, 2, 3. That's Rast on the root on 1, and that's Nahawand on top. Why do we have Nahawand on top? I'm going to show you this graph again. Now, if you look at Hijaz and Nahawand, and you go back to the lesson that we had for Maqam Hijaz, you'll see that Hijaz has Nahawand on 4. It also has Rast on 4. What that means is that when you extend the Hijaz, you're going to use the parts of Maqam Hijaz, which in this case is the Nahawand above it. So that Nahawand is really part of the Hijaz. It's also part of the Bayati. And you see how in this graph it connects to both. Let me show you what that would be like. Again, I'll sing and you guys copy after me, and I'll use my finger to point out where we're at. Ya ning ning ya ning ning ya ning ning ya ning ya lil bayati ya ning ning ya ling ning bayati ya ling ning ya ling ya ling in Hijaz. So repeat after me again. Ya ling ning ya ling, ya ling ning ya ling, ya ling ning ya ling, ya ling ning ya ling in the Nahawand. Ya ling ning ya ling in Bayat, ya ling. Back to Hijaz, ya ling, ya lil in Rast. Now we can also get this Rast on the octave. Ya ling ya ling ya ling ya ling ya ling ya ling ya ling. That's Rast on the octave. Sing with me. Ya ling ya ling ya ling. Ya ling, 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 ya ling might be a little high for some of you. Malish, use your head voice. Ya Layl, ya, ya, ya Layli, ya Layli, ya Layli, ya Layl. So I came down Rast to Bayati. So you see how these lines can all connect in different ways, right? Ya Layl, Bayati. Ya Layl, ya Layl, ya Layl, ya Layli, ya Layl, ya Layli, ya Layl, ya Layli, ya Layl. Coming down via the Nahawand on 5. Ya Layli, ya Layl, ya Layli, ya Layl, ya Layli, ya Layl, ya Layli, ya Layl, ya Layli, ya Layli, ya Layl. So that is Maqam Suznak. I'm going to mention 2 songs, and I'll put links below. Really great illustrations of Suznak, and I'll just play them briefly. I mentioned Ghani Li Shwaya already, and the melody. مع الياسمين وتسافر بها الربان. That's the Hijaz part, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in Rast, 6, 7, 8 in Hijaz. Bawadi Tai. More Hijaz. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. شوي شوي غني لي 5 1 4 2 3 1. Now the next verse of غني لي شوي uses the Bayati on 5. So again, it's a great illustration. المغنى 5 6 7 6 5 of Bayat. There's a taste of Saba here. المغنى. We haven't talked about that yet, but if you already are familiar with Saba, or you're coming back to this from other lessons, Bayati and Saba mix very easily in this position. المغنى حياة الروح يسمها عليل تشفي 5 6 7 6 5 والداوي. That's Nahawand on 5. والداوي كبد مجروح تختار الأطباء فيه وتخلي. Back to the Hijaz. So you see how this song, Ghani Li Shwaya, illustrates, right, these movements. We didn't have upper Rast, but we had Hijaz, Bayati, and Nahawand on 5. Okay? Another great example, Muhammad Abdul Wahab's song, Khayi Khayi. Khayi Khayi, Habibi li asile ya Khayi. Rast. 3 5 1 2 3 4 5 أمانا كنت تبلو تقوله الفرح نسيني وقوله يشاور عقله ينسى يوم ويجيني. 5, a lot of 5, right? وحلفه بويلي. That is the Hijaz on 5. من نهاري وليلي 5 6 8 7 6 7 6 5 وحلفوا بويلي من نهاري وليلي. Back to Rast. Yaba 3 2 1 5 4 3 2 1. So go listen to Khayi Khayi. Go listen to Kulthum's Ghani Li Shwaya. And I'm going to put another link there. There's a wonderful Mawal that Kulthum does called الليل أهو طال. الليل أهو طال يا ليل. She sings a really amazing, I mean, everything she does is amazing, but this is a perfect illustration of Maqam Suznak. The emphasis on Hijaz, the play between Bayati and Hijaz, the little taste of Nahawand and Rast on 8, the little taste of Upper Rast, right? But the balance is the Hijaz. So this is, I would call it a really excellent Mawal to study if you want to get to know Maqam Hijaz better. Kulthum's early Mawal, Il-Layl Ahutal, and I'll put the link there below. Once again, thank you to my Patreon subscribers. For those of you who are subscribing, you're going to get extra lessons in Suznak in different keys. I did this on A. I'll do it on C, which is a common key that people play on for the Patreon supporters. Once again, please don't forget to click like and subscribe. And thank you very much for watching. And you might want to go back and compare this with Maqam Kirdam. I'll finish with a quick improvisation in Suznak. Thank you all.